Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all good. So I wanted to come and talk to you today and tell you about my favourite podcast. At the minute, I'm literally obsessed with podcasts. Like, audiobooks used to be my thing, but now podcasts are like taking the lead and I'm like absolutely obsessed with them. I literally always learn so much from them. So I thought I'd come and share with you guys 8 of my favourite podcasts for self-improvement. We all love improving ourselves, living our best lives. So hopefully this helps you guys out and you can find some new podcasts that you love, and hopefully you love them as much as I do. So the first one is Gary Vaynerchuk's podcast, The Gary V Audio Experience. So this year I've really gotten into Gary Vaynerchuk. I read his book Crushing It at the start of this year and was just absolutely obsessed. If you don't know who Gary Vaynerchuk is, he's like an absolute pro at social media. Like, he is just the guy. Anything that Gary Vaynerchuk says to do, I'll literally do it. So I've even made a TikTok because Gary Vaynerchuk was like, TikTok is like going to be the biggest thing. So he is like the guy for social media, but he's also just so motivating and he gives a lot of advice on entrepreneurship and the mindset, and he's just like a really cool person. Like, you definitely need to check him out. Gary Vaynerchuk posts out so much content, and I see most of his stuff on Instagram, but it's always like short videos. The good thing about the podcast is it's always the long versions of the short videos, so you can hear like the whole thing. So he posted the other day a short clip about time management on his Instagram, but then I knew that there'd be like a long podcast on it. So he's just like a pro at content creation. So the podcasts do really vary. There's a bit of motivation, a bit of social media talk, but yeah, you definitely need to check it out. So the next podcast is the BossBabe Podcast. Now, I'm obsessed with BossBabe at the minute. So they have an Instagram page where they post loads of like motivational quotes for female entrepreneurs, and then they also sell like Instagram courses and things like that, but their podcast is so good. They always interview entrepreneurs who have got like multi-million-pound businesses, and I just find it so inspiring to hear their story and how they got into it. And I think the thing that I like about BossBabe as well is they talk a lot about like the mindset and having a healthy body and having a healthy mind, and I think it's so important. They share as well the struggles that the entrepreneur have had. Like, they don't just say like, oh, here's my business and it's so amazing and everything's great. They talk about the struggle, and I think that's always nice to hear. They put a big emphasis on having a really good work-life balance. I definitely find listening to their podcast so inspiring, and just hearing people's stories and just really getting to know people more. Like, sometimes I think you see people on Instagram and you're just kind of like, ah, but then when you actually hear them talk, you're just kind of like, oh, you're actually really fascinating. So my favorite BossBabe podcast is with Stephen Bartlett, and he talks about building his £500 million company. But when you hear his story, you realize that he's just like a normal guy. He just went to a normal school in, I think, Manchester, and he's just so normal. And I think when you can relate to people, it makes it more inspiring because you actually think, oh, that's something that I could do. So yeah, definitely check that one out. Stephen Bartlett does have his own podcast as well, but I've never actually listened to it. But yeah, I do think he's a really nice guy. Like, I always see his Instagram posts and I'm like, he's so cool. This is like a complete side note, but I thought I may as well share it with you guys. I also brought the BossBabe 90-day planner. Haven't started it yet because I wanted to start it on a Monday, and today it's Sunday, so I'm gonna start it tomorrow. But it's so good, and I think it's gonna be really good for like planning my days and smashing my goals. So yeah, love BossBabe. Also as well, it comes in this like super cute box, which we love. So podcast number 3 is TED Talks Daily. Now, they're not any different to the normal TED Talks where you see the people on stage. It's just that this is in podcast form, but I am obsessed with TED Talks. I've literally been listening to TED Talks for years. I just love them so much. I think the podcast version of TED Talks are really nice because you feel like you can listen to them when you're on the go. Whereas sometimes in the evening, I'm like, okay, I want to sit down and watch a TED Talk. But to have the option to listen to it when you're on the go is like really nice. If you don't know what TED Talks are, you definitely have to check them out. They're on YouTube as well, but they just talk about so many eye-opening and thought-provoking topics. It just really opens your eyes up. Like, some of the speeches are so inspiring, and I'm just like, I just love it. But there's a variety of topics, so there's definitely something for everyone. So there's business related ones, science related ones, health, personal growth. There's just literally everything. Like, I guarantee you will find a TED Talk that you like. But you should definitely download that app as well, because there's so much on there that's like so fascinating. Like, I watched this 5-minute video on there the other day about the black hole and how it works, and I was just like, I'd never usually watch something like that, but because it was TED, I was like, okay. So yeah, definitely check out TED Talks. They have also got something on there called TED Talk interviews, which I haven't listened to yet, but I think that they'd be really good as well. Like, I trust anything that TED does. So the next podcast is On Purpose with Shetty, and to be honest, I haven't listened to that many. I've listened to 2 of his podcasts. One was with Gary Vaynerchuk, and the other one was about creating meaningful content on social media, which was really good. So he actually spent a few years as a monk, which I think is like the coolest thing ever, and his sort of strapline is that he wants to make wisdom go viral. So there's just a lot of inspiring and in-depth conversations, and he gives really, really great insights into a variety of topics. So I'm definitely going to start listening to his stuff more. He's actually got an interview on his podcast with Khloe Kardashian as well, which I haven't even listened to yet, but I'm sure it'll be good. He's actually had some quite big people on there, like I'm just looking now. He's had Eva Longoria, Kobe Bryant, obviously Chloe K. But then he also talks about things like the 5 levels of growth that you can't skip, miss or avoid. So yeah, defo just real in-depth stuff. Okay, so next are my favorite property podcasts. Now, these podcasts have made a really, really big difference to me this year. I don't know why I've been sleeping on them, but the property podcasts have defo really helped me out this year. I think they've definitely opened my eyes up and made me want to sort of do things differently, build more of a property brand. And I think there's times where we've come across challenges, and I think because I've listened to the podcast, it's kind of helped me stay more motivated. Whereas before I might have just been like, oh, okay, whatever. The podcasts have actually really, really helped me, and it just helped me want to be better. So the first property podcast I'm going to recommend is Tej Talks. And he interviews people again who are just really relatable, and like I was saying before, when you can actually relate to the person, it makes it so much more inspiring, because you kind of think to yourself, well, if they've done it, then there's no reason that I can't do it. So I'm definitely loving Tej Talks. I feel like I've never listened to one and thought like I'm not inspired by it, or that person's a bit off, or anything like that as well. And I think as well what's really good is they're just really honest. So it's not every day, oh my god, this happened and this is so amazing, this is great, this is great. You do hear about the struggles as well that people have to go through. And the second property podcast that I'm going to recommend is Inside Property Investing with Mike and Victoria. And it's a similar vibe really, so it's conversations with people who are actually relatable, and they talk about the good and the bad, but you can literally learn so much from them. And they also go into a lot of detail about their own deals, so you actually understand what they're doing and what they're going through, and it's just, again, a very honest conversation. So the next podcast is a little bit different to the others, but it's called Sleep Cove by Christopher Flint. So I think I have actually mentioned this podcast before in another video. So I listen to this every night when I'm trying to get to sleep. So it's a lot of different sleep hypnosises and guided meditations to help you drift off to sleep. His voice is just so soothing, and when you listen to it, it's just like, ah. But there is a lot of different topics on there. So there's sleep meditation for letting go of worry and stress, guided sleep meditation to heal your spirit and mind, sleep hypnosis for insomnia, sleep hypnosis for overthinking. So whatever you feel like you're going through, you can have a listen and you'll just be off to sleep. I probably only ever listen to like 5 minutes of it, and then I'm literally fast asleep. But it's really good as well if you're a bit of an overthinker, because I think when you focus on his voice, it helps you not focus on your own thoughts, if that makes sense. So yeah, definitely love Sleep Cove. And the final podcast is actually the first podcast I ever started listening to, so I had to pay homage to it. And it's the PLT Podcast, hosted by Nat O'Leary. And you might be thinking like, what the hell, where's that come from? But on the podcast, she interviews a lot of different Instagram influencers and celebrities. And I think it's really good because you see these Instagram models and sometimes you feel like you don't really get to know them, and you don't know what they'd be like as a person. But a lot of them have really inspiring stories. Like I listened to one the other day with Polly Marchant, and I'd always seen her on Instagram, but I thought she was just like a makeup artist. And then when she was like talking in the video, I was like, nah, she's an absolute boss. Like she's got her own salon, she's got her own makeup line, and like these are all things that I didn't even know before. So it's good that you actually get to hear the stories of the influencer, especially when they don't do things like YouTube. You kind of think like, oh, I don't really like know you, if that makes sense. So guys, those are my favorite podcasts. Let me know if you listen to any of them. I listen to all of mine on Spotify, but I know that Apple have got their own like podcast thing. I don't know where else you can actually listen to podcasts, so yeah. But I'll make sure I leave a link in the description to them below, and if they've got a YouTube channel, I'll also make sure to link that. So thank you so much for watching, really appreciate it as always. I'll see you next time. Bye.